How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another GT Online car review. My name is Saintsfan, and today the brand new supercar, the Deveste 8, was released. And in this video, I will be answering the question, should you buy it? This is actually the final drip feed car from the Arena War DLC, so no longer do we have to wait a week until we get something new. We just have to wait until Rockstar releases the next DLC. But this vehicle, I will say right off the bat, is absolutely amazing. This, in my opinion, is one of the best Arena War vehicles that they released. And honestly, it's one of the better vehicles they've released over the last couple of years. While yes, I believe it still has those handling flags, which we'll get into in a bit, it's not too noticeable. And there are way too many pros, for me at least, that outweigh the cons. Now, as always, let's get started with customization and appearance. The appearance obviously is subjective. I think this thing looks absolutely incredible. The front, I'm not like super happy with. Like, there's some other cars that definitely look better from the front. But the part that you see the most when you're using or when you're playing GTA is the rear. And the rear on this car, to me, is just so beautiful, man. It's actually one of the most realistic cars in the game, at least as far as its real life counterpart. Rockstar didn't change a whole lot if you actually compare it to the real life version. But again, looks are subjective if you don't like the look of it, because it is kind of long and it's kind of weird looking. If you look at it in certain angles, then you're not going to like the look of this car, and that's fine. You don't want to buy it. But I absolutely love the look of it. And the customization is like most supercars. It's just good. It's actually got some cool liveries. My favorite livery, because I absolutely love this. And I totally wish we could change the color, because I don't actually want hot pink, but I got to deal with it because that's the only one we have, is the one that makes it looks like a Tron style of car. I absolutely love that livery that sort of outlines everything. But they do have some other cool liveries. You have a primary, a secondary, and a trim color. You have some cool spoiler options. You have some cool options to make certain parts of your car either the primary or the secondary, or just like a standard black or carbon. So you do have some decent options when it comes to customization. Now let's talk about the performance, because this is where this vehicle absolutely shines. First test you're going to see here is against the X80. And the X80 is one of the faster cars in this sort of environment where you're just sort of driving straight, not really turning. And this car beats it by a decent amount. If you were wondering, this car is actually a rear-wheel drive. It's not all-wheel drive. So that is why at the start, your acceleration, you're going to spin your tires a little bit unless you do hold the handbrake about halfway while revving your engine, I believe. Or no, it's you do the opposite. You hold your right trigger about halfway while holding the handbrake, and then you go, and then your tires usually don't spin out. But it is all-wheel drive, so you are going to get some spin. That's why certain vehicles, I think like the X80, does get a better start initially. But this thing actually gets it, as you see, in the top speed and everything. Then we're going to actually test it against the Pariah. And the Pariah is a cheat code. I don't know how it's lasted this long and Rockstar hasn't changed it. The Pariah is a sports car, and it's beating this supercar. And it beats pretty much every supercar. It's super stupid how it's made into the game. It's completely broken the sports class. But what's actually good, I think, about this new car, the Deveste 8, is that it kind of keeps up with the Pariah. Normally the Pariah just takes off and you'll see it just leave you in the dust. But with this new car, it actually kind of stays a little behind it. Like, it doesn't really lose much distance, which I thought was kind of cool and kind of good for this vehicle. And then we're going to get into this next test, or this next situation, where it's me and the Deveste 8 versus someone in the Wagner, which is actually one of, if not the best supercar for just like all around use. And we also have the Tesseract, which is the electric sports or supercar that doesn't have a good acceleration, but its top speed is absolutely insane. And you'll see the Wagner, I think, sometimes gets a little bit of a better start, but the Deveste 8 is basically as good, if not a tad better than the Wagner. They're actually super close in terms of their performance when you put them in these sort of testing environments. The Tesseract, on the other hand, you might have already seen, it definitely has it in top speed. I think there's no question there. In top speed, the Tesseract, I don't think there's many vehicles in the game that can beat it. But the problem with the Tesseract is that you're not going to ever really be on straightaways like this where you're not turning so much for that top speed to truly matter. Going back to the Wagner, though, you may have seen, or you may be seeing in the longer test where we take the turn, the Wagner actually, the guy who did it, who was driving it, actually got a little bit of a better start. He kind of went a little bit before the grenade exploded. So he kind of had a little bit of a lead on me this entire sort of test. But the reason I say the Wagner and this new vehicle, the new supercar, are so close or so identical is because that lead basically never changed. Like, he kind of just kept it throughout. And I think that's really, really good for this new car, because we're getting to a point, I think we've already gotten to the point where there are so many different cars in the game, especially supercars, that unless Rockstar just make one that's completely broken like the Praia, there's not gonna be one that just hands down beats every other car in the class. We've gotten to the point where the cars they release, they'll just be competitive with everything else, which is perfect, because now, and hopefully going forward, you won't have to choose between like 2 vehicles to use in a supercar race. You can choose, you know, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's ultimately, I think, like what they should be going for. And that's this car to a T. The Deveste 8 is absolutely amazing in its performance in the super class. It hangs with the Wagner, which is regarded as one of the best. It beats the X80, which is one of the better top speed cars. So this thing is great in stunt races if you still play those. This thing is also great in regular races, and we'll get into the actual handling in a second, but this thing is one of the best supercars I think Rockstar have added. Now, for the handling, it does have some quirks about it, but it's not too bad. Like I mentioned, I might have mentioned this, but it actually does have the handling flags still. They're not too noticeable though, which is always a good thing. Certain bumps, bigger bumps, like when you're in the airport and you're going over the little grass things, that'll definitely spin you out if you're going fast enough. So you got to be careful on certain things, but just driving around the city, little curbs and stuff don't matter as much. And it's got, I think, a good balance of traction. It doesn't glue to the ground like certain other vehicles, but that's a good thing, because if you just want to have some fun and you want to somewhat slide and drift when you're driving around in free roam, then this thing does that. But if you're also going super fast and you want to make a turn, then this thing's not, most of the time, going to slide out on you. It's going to hold and it's going to make that turn. So overall, I would say this is a must-buy vehicle. It is actually, I never mentioned this, $1.78 million or something like that. So comparatively speaking, compared to the other supercars, it's a good price. It's not a great price, because $1.8 million, that's a lot of money. But considering some of the other supercars are 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, 2.6, $2.7 million, and this thing has better performance than most of those, this is a fantastic deal. And if you're looking for a breath of fresh air in the supercar class, if you're tired of using the Wagner, for instance, then this Deveste 8 is for you. That's going to do it for this car review. Thank you all for watching. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with me, or do you not? Do you hate this car? I think it's terrible. Please drop the video a like if you did enjoy. Subscribe for more GT Online content. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.